So we've talked about reflectors in general. Now I want to be a bit more specific on a particular device that I'm very proud of because I actually invented it. Now some people may have come up with this idea before, maybe made their own makeshift Mega Reflector 360s, but I actually had the foresight to actually create it and make it a product, and it's now sold all over the world, and I'm very proud of that. And what is it? Well, we've already talked about a 5-in-1 reflector. So it's basically depending on what size you get, but let's say you've got a 40-inch diameter reflector, and usually it's a 5-in-1, where you basically have black on one side, white on the other, you unzip it, you have got silver, and you've got gold, and then you've got the diffuser. Now, what happens if you added a hole in the reflector? And I know it sounds crazy, but why would you want a hole in a reflector? Well, sometimes when you hold a reflector that's so big, you can hardly see what's happening with the light on the subject. It's very awkward. And you want to be where that is to be able to see what's going on, and that's very tough. Sometimes you have an assistant with small wingspan and they can't see anything. It's very, very tough to handle. So the charm of the Omega Reflector 360 is that because it has a hole in it, let me show you now the diverse way, like the very unique way that this actually fits. First of all, let's show you a photograph of Rainey. She's backlit with the sun. Okay, so can't really get the exposure perfect because of course we've got sunlight on the back of her head. If I expose for her too much, as in I get the detail that I want in her skin, then we're going to get the wrong exposure on her hair, and vice versa. It's going to be a little bit of an issue. The minute I put the Omega Reflector up to her face, then now what's happening is we've got one light source, being the sun, reflect off the reflector and deflect back on her face, giving us this sort of beautiful flood of light. So we're ricocheting sort of quite evenly right around. Again, if we liken light to water, it's coming right behind her, hitting it and then flooding back and ricocheting back on her face. And what we get is a pretty incredible, stunning result, because the light is, the water, so to speak, is hitting her entire face. We've got this incredible catch lights in her eyes, and if you go closer, it's just exquisite, just absolutely beautiful. Again, now let's see it with maybe a couple. So now you've got a couple, you've got backlighting, and the minute I put that reflector up, this is no retouching on this behind the scenes photograph, you can see the glow of light on their faces, and it's just simply exquisite. It's one of those shots that I would do usually at the start of every shoot or on location shoot, because brides just feel amazing in it. You think about what's been popularized these days, people see ring lights, taking selfies, and makeup artists using ring lights and everything like that. So that kind of light is very common and has come into the consumer, call it visual vernacular, that like they understand what that kind of lighting does. It wraps around and makes everyone look really pretty and beautiful. So you might say, all right, well, the Omega Reflector is a 15-in-1. You've got the normal 5-in-1 use, and now that we've got the mini reflectors and we can Velcro them off, then what does that do? How can we use those mini reflectors? As in, I call them the hole in the donut. I love that. So I leave the main unit behind. Now I have a mini reflector. The cool thing is that I can actually illuminate the face and not the body. So in this case, I've got our model here with it's open shade. You can see that the lighting is not that directional. It's open shade, it's not that great. There's no mini reflector, there's nothing on him on the left-hand side. With this one, now you see even a bigger catch light in his eyes because there's a white mini reflector illuminating his face, but not his body. Watch what happens when we get from a white mini reflector to a silver. You can see how much more contrasty it is. He's actually quite struggling to keep his eyes open because now we're dealing with a very small light source, and we said in earlier segments that a small light source is very contrasty, sharper shadows, sharper highlights, as in it's deflecting water off this reflector, and it's stainless steel, so to speak, and then giving us that sharper contrast. Watch what happens when we go from silver to gold. Well, you can see the fact that there's a warmer tone more on the right than there is the left. There's the same amount of contrast. It just depends on what look you want to go for. Now let's look at the groom here in open shade. Now let's look at him actually with a black cutter, as in cutting away light with a mini reflector. What that does, even though that we're in open shade, the minute you bring something close to the groom's face, especially black, it's going to cut away light because the light source now is open shade. It's just all the light in front of him. There is a direction. It's usually up there. So his chin is up a little bit, but then we bring that black side up and then we cut away, and that's how we get literally from nothing to a bit more depth and dimension, or we call it modeling of the face. Now, let's have a look at this. So, for example, we've got Rainey here in full sun. She's struggling to keep her eyes open. There's no diffuser, there's no nothing. You've heard me say it, I love shooting in the sun, it's not a problem. But if you want a softer look, something a little bit prettier, then if you open up the Omega reflector, what's inside is the diffuser. So you put the diffuser over her and you shoot nice and close, and there's a huge difference between that and that. Okay, beautiful. Also, what else can we do with this? Well, if you have the reflector on the black side and you basically want to create shapes and some really interesting sort of designs on a person's face or a particular environment, you can actually allow the sun to travel right through the hole of the reflector. And in this case, this is full sun. She's just closing her eyes. But in this case, I've got the black side of the reflector without the hole in the donut, so to speak, creating that beautiful, luxurious, sort of curvaceous sort of shape around her eyes. And this is a behind the scenes shot, as you can see it there as well. So it actually is a very, very versatile tool that has become a staple among many photographers. So check it out. All right, so this one here in particular, this is just full sun. And then you can see how the sun, the highlight on her face, the highlight on her bust, it's very, very bright. What happens if I wanted a bit more detail in her dress, but wanted full sun on her face? Well, no problem. We can actually just use the diffuser part of the Omega reflector, take the hole out, so now we have the diffused, the full sunlight coming through the diffuser, and then we've got the actual light traveling through the translucent diffuser, giving us sort of some light, some softer light that we're exposing for this, rather than getting that sort of that deep contrast that we had before. Can you shoot multiple people with it, and can you shoot it without an assistant? Well, of course you can. It's simply having either a wider angle lens. In this case, we've simply just got a reflector arm, and you can just use one light source. So in this case, we've got the sunlight behind these two girls. It actually hits the back of them, hits the actual reflector, and then goes back on them for that beautiful look. Okay, so now let's look at sunlight coming through a window. This is not retouched, this is just straight out of the camera, light coming through a window. And typically I would have, for this shot, maybe got her to look out towards the sun, maybe eyes down or anything like that. But what I do is I actually put the actual diffuser next to the window and I diffuse her, and now we've got this beautiful softbox. So in other words, we're filtering the strong, harsh, contrasty, powerful light through this strainer, let's call it, or a sponge, whatever a metaphor that works for you. And now we're softening and spreading and embroidering that light. Now, how did I get that diffuser on the wall without an assistant? Well, the cool thing is with the Omega reflector, you actually have a suction cup with a hook that you can attach to a piece of glass. So in this case, included in the Omega reflector, the suction cup goes in the glass, you pull it down, you hang the actual reflector, and that's how we get that beautiful diffused look, as you can see in the unretouched behind the scenes photograph here of Rainey. All right, well, how else can we use it? Well, once you understand those various ways that we can use it, other than the typical way you use a reflector that we showed you in the earlier segment, just talking about reflectors in general, in this case, I've got the sunlight hitting the back of the cushion here. I'm hitting the actual reflector and I'm shooting through the hole to get this look. So it works out to be a very beautiful, soft quality of light. And I often liken the shooting through the Omega reflector as combining the effects of a beauty dish and a ring light with the natural nature of a reflector. So we've got a reflector, ring light, and a beauty dish sort of practically all in one. But it ends up making skin look absolutely flawless. And how did I do it? Well, there's the unretouched behind the scenes photograph. Sun pretty much pouring through the window, hitting the reflector, me shooting back through it, and then that's how you get that beautiful quality of light. So it's a very, very easy and affordable way to get into some beautiful lighting, perhaps other than what's existing around you. In this case, in that same room, in fact, our bedroom, the sunlight was actually hitting the ground. And I just posed Jamilet here. I posed Jamilet actually lying down. And we've got a pretty nice quality of light there as well. But then I just simply use a diffuser on her, and she just looks incredible. And that was simply diffusing the light through this translucent diffuser, and then now we get that beautiful glow of light, which absolutely looks amazing. So remember, the Omega reflectors are awesome. This shot, it looks like a complex setup, arguably probably 2 or 3 light sources. In many ways it sort of is, because we've got the sunlight from behind, hairlight, backlight. It hits the reflector. The reflection in her eyes, it makes it look like 2 light sources. Basically, it's her head blocking away the light coming from, to make a complete ring. So then, if you want to see how that was done, I got Melissa to just take off a couple of leaves from one of our plants. That added a bit of texture. We've got the reflector on an arm, so it can be just used automatically with no human being involved. Light hits the back of her, I shoot through that hole, and then I get that beautiful look and feel. Now, can you use this reflector, let's say with a strobe? Could that work? Well, of course it can. This shot was taken with one strobe with a big softbox. So it was a 5-foot octobox, and it was right behind her. She goes right up against it, and if, of course, now I've got a complete white background, which is beautiful. But then if I put a white reflector in front of her, the light's going to flood the back of her, give her that beautiful little edge light that we talked about, hit the reflector, go back on her face, and now we've got that edge light, which is going to be brighter than what reflects. Of course it is, but you get this incredible fashionable look and incredible catch lights, which mirror the shape of the pupil and so on. And depending on the way you turn the face and everything like that, we get this gorgeous quality of light. Again, it's just coming from right behind her. It's giving us that beautiful edge light, that little tickle of light on her bust. I love the fact that it's all on the nose rather than just the tip, because then that will feel like a mistake. And again, that edge light's going to be brighter than what ends up being that main directional light from the front, but you can just get a gorgeous feel and quality. Now, what I ended up doing in the very first test shoot that I did with the Omega reflector was actually photographing a girl with freckles. So I wanted basically freckles to emulate, let's say, damaged skin or pimples or something like that. Now, I love freckles, so don't get me wrong. This is not about being personal to this girl or anything like that. I chose her deliberately to emulate blemishes of skin and how the Omega reflector would correct that in camera with no Photoshop. So with this case, so all we simply basically have here is the light behind her. The reflector's way, 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 way away from her. So you're getting to see, it's quite flat, there's not much direction, but the minute I put the reflector up, she looks amazing. There's no retouching done whatsoever in this particular photograph. In this next one, I want to show you what we did is we actually got a flash from behind her, one speed light, hits the back of her head, hits the reflector, goes back on her face, and then again, we get that particular look. So that gives you an idea of exactly how we did it. Now, at night, we ended up actually getting hair and makeup done, so we got makeup on her face, and we thought, how do we use this with flash at night and then with skin with makeup? So we isolated this background. This is like somewhat of a Christmas lights in a tree in this building. We had one speed light hitting the back of her, hitting the reflector, going back on her face, and then I get this look. So you can see the hole in there, and then that bottom part of that, the catch lights in her eyes is actually her. So her head fits within that hole, so to speak, of that particular that catch light. But you can see again, this is not retouched. There's all hair on her face, but she had some makeup done, and that's why her skin looks a little bit cleaner. Probably one of the best examples I could show you regarding the Omega reflector is this, guys. So here we have Rainey, beautiful girl that you've seen on previous shots here in this segment, that this is basically her in our pool in the backyard here. And we've got the sun behind her. The problem is I want the richness of this blue tone come out. But if I expose for her face, this is going to go whiter, lighter, if I expose for that highlight, this is going to go darker. Well, what do? Well, I simply use the Omega reflector. I have the Omega reflector with the hole in between her and me. I have the sun behind her, and then now we get these beautiful photographs of her in the pool. Now, how did I do it? This is the behind the scenes. Again, no retouching on these. We've got the light hitting the back of her. I'm shooting through the hole, but that shows you what it is. Now, for those of you who are very doubtful, who are probably doubting me and saying, well, Jerry, these are all retouched. Well, some of the actual final shots are retouched, more liquefied than anything else because of the nature of her swimsuit and things like that. The behind the scenes ones are straight from the camera. I wouldn't retouch those. So what I thought I would do is actually show you a screen capture of the raw file. That is the raw file, that's the NEF file, and as you can see, there's a bit of hair that I retouched on the side. You can see the swimsuit on her bust just sort of came out a little bit, so we pushed that in afterwards, but that is the quality of light that we get from the Omega reflector. So guys, hope you enjoyed that. Please don't think this is as a glorified promotion. I simply invented a product that I wish that was out there and it just wasn't. And you could certainly emulate this by literally cutting a hole in your own reflector, but you don't get the advantage of all the homework that I did with the diameter, the hole, the actual mini reflectors that can be used independent of itself. But check it out, it's really affordable and an easy way to get great qualities of light. So easy at your fingertips. So enjoy, guys.